Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Bring It Out podcast. And today I'm very excited to introduce Catori Griffin, an early content creator focused on helping students and early career professionals navigate internships, non-target pipelines, and the messy middle between ambition and access, as well as sharing lessons on marketing, career growth, and how to find your voice early on. So it's great to have you with us today, Catori, and please feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for offering to have me on. So my name is Catori Griffin. I am a current senior at Virginia Commonwealth University. I study marketing with a concentration in product and brand management, and I have a minor in creative writing. What kind of my platform is kind of built off of is creating spaces for students who are underrepresented or go to more non-target schools or, not the Ivies, not the top of the top, but helping them realize that they can still get to the same places that the people that do come from those schools can get to.
And for those of you who are new to the show, I'm Juwan, a career exploration enthusiast and the creator and host behind the podcast. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. So let's go ahead and get started. So Catori, like you said, how can students from non-target school backgrounds and people with zero corporate connections differentiate themselves in the internship application process?
Yeah, I think one thing that I really did early on, and I guess this is more for interview rounds, but I really spoke to the fact that I did go to a non-target school and the different programs and the different experiences that I've had, such as my content, that have really, I think, differentiated me from the average applicant. And I found that something that a lot of people in the hiring and recruiters and things have connected with. But I think further to that point, joining programs. My sophomore year of college, I joined both MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and SEO, Sponsors for Educational Opportunity. And those two programs are great programs that have really helped me to learn more about the corporate space, learn more about internship opportunities. I came into college not really knowing anything. I don't have family from a corporate background, so it was something that I kind of had to learn myself, and I think those programs really helped me to do that and gave me somewhat of a foundation. They gave me networking opportunities and coaching and things that really helped me to put myself in a better place and put a better foot forward when applying to these different positions.
Thank you for sharing that. And in terms of resumes, how could students refine their resumes to help them in that post-grad job search, especially because, more and more nowadays, AI is being used to screen resumes?
Yeah, I think one thing that is often recommended is tailoring your resume. So looking at the job description and trying to tailor your experiences to that job description. I think that can be a little bit difficult if you're not necessarily, maybe this is your first internship or this is not your first job application, not something that you're necessarily used to doing consistently. So I guess my biggest tips for that would be, one, the biggest advice that I've always heard from professionals is to quantify things. Regardless of kind of the industry that you're going in, I think a lot of recruiters want to see your impact. An example of this would be, instead of saying, hey, I managed this social media account for 1 year, you could say, I allotted for a gain in 5,000 followers in 4 months. Something like that kind of quantifies the impact rather than just kind of stating it, I think holds a bit more weight in terms of how the recruiters and hiring managers are looking at it. I also think one thing that I did early on was, if you're networking, if you're starting to build these connections, ask a professional if they'll look over your resume. Ask them if they will look over it and give you a few tips. That's something that I did early on, and there were a lot of just small things like spacing and line length that I wasn't even thinking about. I was thinking about the content and what are the words, but they were telling me no, they're going to look at all of this. So making sure your formatting is correct, making sure all of that, and you can find that out by talking to a professional and asking them.
And I feel like everybody somehow gets imposter syndrome even after landing these dream jobs and dream internships. So in your opinion, how should we deal with imposter syndrome after we do get our offers?
Yeah, I think one thing that has really helped me, because that's something I definitely have dealt with as well, but I think one thing that has helped me is really to look back and reflect on everything that you did to get to the place that you're at. I think when we're doing internship applications and we're doing job applications, it starts to seem very redundant. We're doing, 5 a day, 10 a day, whatever. So you're not necessarily thinking about the work that goes into that though. The amount of cover letters you had to write, the amount of times you had to press submit, like all of that is a reason in how you got here. And then even prior to that, the experiences you have on your resume that have allowed you to get this job in the first place or get the interview in the first place. I think recollecting on that and thinking about, how much that meant to you and how maybe difficult that even that was, will really help. One thing I do is I keep a little jar on my desk of like all my wins. So if I'm ever feeling like or even if I'm just sad, or if I'm feeling that imposter syndrome feeling, I do like to like go get one of those and see, oh, I did this and I forgot I did this. I think that really can help because it's definitely something people are dealing with still.
And how can early career professionals use their voice to open doors for others and for themselves?
Yeah. One of my favorite kind of terms that's kind of on LinkedIn and like on TikTok and stuff is building out loud. And so for me, that kind of means, well, in traditional sense, I guess it means founders, people who are starting businesses, they build out loud. So before they have their perfect product or their perfect branding, they're coming and saying, hey, I want to do this. This is my mission. And they're building it as they go along. And that's something that really sticks with me as a creator. I don't have all of the answers. I have maybe some, but I don't have all of the answers, and I'm still a student and I'm still learning alongside my audience. And so I really try to emphasize that I am also learning too, and I'm still navigating these experiences and processes as well. And I think, if you're someone who, is in your early career, doesn't know how to start content, doesn't know if like you have enough expertise to start content, I would just give the advice to build out loud and to, share your experience with your audience, whether it be, hey, I just did my first interview today. Hey, I just wrote my first cover letter today. Like, people are going to resonate with that because they're in the same space as you. And I think it doesn't have to be like, people think you have to be so perfect and you have to be so polished and know what you're talking about. And to some extent, sure, but I think to more to that, you need to just start and don't be afraid of people, because your audience will find you.
And what are some tips and tricks you have for students who are, trying to develop their networking skills, especially when they're attending, conferences with other students and other professionals?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is I know it sounds a little cliche, but like just talk to people. I think that is really a big skill. I think I did not have those skills coming into college. I'm an only child, and like my mom is also an only child, so we don't really have like that sibling background, or we didn't grow up necessarily talking to people. I talked to her when I grew up, so it wasn't something that came naturally to me. But I do have an experience. I went to the Grace Hopper conference, I believe it was in 2024, and I felt really out of place. If you're not familiar, the Grace Hopper conference is a large technology conference for women who are within technology. So a lot of the students that were there with me were like computer science, data engineering, those kind of things. And that's not my background. I'm a marketer. And so I felt very out of place of like, oh, none of these, like they had a big job fair. I was like, none of these recruiters are going to want me because I'm marketing and they're not going to be interested in me. They're looking for something else, something more technical. But I actually have an experience. I went up to a large technology company's line. I was waiting in line, and I just spoke to the lady. She was a product manager, and I kind of expressed to her, like kind of boldly, I guess, looking back at it, like how I was feeling and how I felt kind of out of place and lost and not really knowing what I was I knew what I was doing there, but I didn't know how to translate my marketing skills into a more technical role. And what actually ended up happening is she kind of took a chance on me and invited me then the next day to a private dinner they were having with a few people they were kind of interested in working with. And so that, that's just a testament to, if you don't speak up, like you will never know what you'll miss out on. Even if you're nervous, even if you're expressing how nervous you are, you never know how or where that could lead you. And I think it's really important. I know it's really difficult because it's like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I can bring to the table. But I think just going in there, introducing yourself, introducing what you want to do, and I think starting that way will lead you further. I also think, you have to remember that these professionals are like coming to these conferences because they want to be at conferences. It's not like you're coming up to them like at their job, at their desk while they're in the middle of work. Like, you're not necessarily bothering them. And sure, you'll find some people who will make it seem like you are bothering them. But for the vast majority, they're there because they want to connect with people and they want to meet new people. And so don't be afraid of that, and remind yourself of that when going to these conferences and experiences.
And what are some personal tips that you took to land your internship at Google?
Yeah, so one thing that I did, I knew quite early on in my college career that I would be targeting Google. I just thought the culture seemed nice. I was specifically at that point targeting their associate product marketing manager role. And so I believe the summer between my sophomore and my junior year, I started networking. So I reached out to a few different people on LinkedIn at the company that were in that specific role, and just asked for a short 30-minute coffee chat. And I was able to do a few of those, and it didn't lead into anything right then and there. Like, I just kind of took the coffee chat, took what they said, their advice, and kind of ran with it. But it wasn't necessarily like, oh, now you have a job kind of thing. So that was the summer between, and then I knew that applications opened, I believe either in September or October of my junior year. And so I made sure the first day that it opened, I reached back out to those people and said, hey, would you be willing to refer me as well? And so I was able to apply on the first day with the referral. I don't always think that for big tech in general, you need a referral. I've had other big tech offers where I didn't have a referral at all. So I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it can be helpful, especially at big companies like Google, because they get so many applications, and honestly, they get so many people with referrals, that it can kind of be like, it can help you a little bit. But I also think more than that, just applying early, making sure you know your deadlines, and making sure you're looking at your email, responding to any communication that they could be giving you, and networking early. I think if you start networking with people early on and you start building those connections, not necessarily that this is going to lead straight to a referral, but I do think you'll get in the mindset of maybe the type of person that they're looking for. At Google, they say you need to have this Googliness. And so, like, getting a sense of what does that even mean, and learning that. And for different tech companies as well, or outside of that, finance, whatever it is, getting a sense of, okay, what is the culture and how can I fit into that culture, or do I even fit into that culture, because it also needs to be a good fit for you. So those are some things that I did early on. But also interview prep. I cannot emphasize that enough, because it is hard to answer questions back to back to back and remember what you're trying to say. And so making sure that you're prepping, whether that be with your best friend, if your school has career services that'll do it with you, if you have a coach, making sure to prepare and to write out your stories, utilizing the STAR method. That's situation, task, action, result. So writing out your stories. I think I have an entire 10-page document that, like, I wrote out every single answer to every possible question they could ever ask me. And so something like that doesn't need to be 10 pages, but something like that to prepare yourself and to make sure you know what you're talking about.
And you spoke about, booking coffee chats as you were landing your internship at Google. So what are the best ways for someone to cold email or book a coffee chat?
Yeah, I guess my kind of biggest advice, and this is kind of something that I commonly share on my LinkedIn and in my content, is just reaching out to people. I like to do through LinkedIn. That's kind of how I started. I think sometimes if people's emails aren't readily available, I don't necessarily think that you should go and find their email or try to find their email or try to nitpick that. I have had someone do that to me, and I thought it was a little bit creepy. So maybe not something like that, but I do think on LinkedIn, something as simple as what I would say was like, hi, my name is Catori. I am a, senior marketing major at this school. I have seen your work at this company and would really love to learn more about your experience and about how you got to the position that you are. It doesn't need to be long and drawn out. If there is a connection that you have with someone, I would say make that. When I was first networking with people from Google, there was one person that I networked with who was from my same area, like hometown area, and so adding like, oh hey, I'm from this area too, or hey, I saw you like reading, I like reading too, like something small that could be a little bit of a connection, I think can also help, because then it differentiates you even from the people who are reaching out, because as professionals they're getting thousands of those messages, but I do think it's very important for me, I think, to connect with a little message. And obviously for LinkedIn regular, they only give you a few a month, so I would say prioritize the people that you really want to talk to, the companies from which they work at that you really want to get into each month. But I would definitely say reaching out with a small message on LinkedIn, I think that really differentiates you from the people who just try to connect, because not everyone's going to, if they have 200 connection requests, they're not necessarily going to connect with every single person, but you will stand out if you have a little message attached and something that they can kind of respond to. So that's something that I would recommend to start out.
And in your opinion, what is the biggest myth that people believe about landing internships in 2026?
Biggest myth? I think more so that you have to have, well, one, I think you have to have an amazing, perfect GPA, is a big myth. I did not have a great GPA, even getting to Google, like I did not have that. So I think you can get past rounds without having, a 4.0, a 3.9, it's not something where it's going to immediately disqualify you. I think there are positions in which there are, but I haven't run into issues and my GPA was not the best. And so I definitely would say that's a big myth. I think also just coming into it that you have to have all this professional big experience. I think it's also the way that you are able to relay your experience. So whether that be, oh, I can't apply to this because I don't have another tech internship, but you do have club experience, you have leadership throughout your school, you're a tour guide. There are different things that you can kind of say in the ways that you express that. So instead of just saying, like, kind of with the resume as well, the way that I express that of like, I'm a tour guide for my school, but also saying I impacted 30 families by showing them around the school and they accepted their offer to join the school. Something like that kind of better portrays your impact, I think can be really helpful in whether it be a higher view interview, a first round, or an interview down the line. I don't think you have to speak to these big giant internship experiences. You can also just speak to your club experience, your experience inside of school, because internships are not always accessible to people who have to work their way through school or who have to anything like that, or first generation don't know what an internship is. So there are other ways to go about speaking to your experience and gaining experience that doesn't have to be these super big internship positions.
And talk to me about your own experience and journey being a creator on LinkedIn. How has it given you access to, new opportunities and just a new network of other creators that you can learn from?
Yeah, so I kind of started my LinkedIn maybe my junior year is when I started taking it a little more seriously. I was just kind of posting, I got this role, or I'm doing this for the summer, like just how people normally use LinkedIn. And I guess I kind of started it as just a way to bring out stories that I had learned and different things that I had learned through becoming a part of organizations like MLT and like SEO. I really came in with no knowledge of corporate, no knowledge of needing to get an internship, where I wanted to intern, really what marketing was. I chose marketing kind of on a whim. I thought my entire high school career I was going to be a psychology major, and then I took AP psychology and I did not like that. So my senior year I kind of had to pivot, and I took a marketing class and I loved it and it stuck. But I kind of picked it on a whim, so I didn't know necessarily what came with that in terms of college and in terms of building a career in marketing. So I kind of started my LinkedIn just to share those lessons that I had learned along the way to people who may be in similar situations to me, and incoming freshmen don't know what they want to do, that kind of thing. And it kind of blossomed from there. I've definitely, well, I think on one end, it's short opportunities I've been given, but I think more so what has been impactful for me has been having students reach out to me and ask me for chats and ask me to talk, and that's always so cool. I'm like, guys, I am just a regular college kid like you guys, like, but the fact that people, look up to me and want to talk to me and want to hear what I have to say, and I love to help. I love to give people like personalized stuff. If there's a program I think is perfect for you, I'm going to tell you. I really want to see everyone win, so I think for me that part has been the coolest thing. But I also think on the flip side of that, there definitely are opportunities that come with it. Even this podcast, like if I didn't have this platform, you wouldn't have asked me on. So I think, things like that come up, and just gaining those opportunities. But it wasn't the reason that I started it, and I think that's important. Like, it wasn't to get a better job or to get, a better internship or whatever. It really just came from a place of, I want to help people. Not that I think it's bad that you want to start a platform because you want to get a better job, but I do think there's authenticity in the fact that, that wasn't my purpose, that wasn't my point. And so, yeah, I think that's a little bit about my journey, and I hope people can kind of take inspiration from that and start their own content journeys.
Thank you for sharing that. And
yeah,
are there any books or resources that you'd like to share with the viewers that you personally found helpful?
Yeah, I guess I think I need to get more into nonfiction reading in general. I think I'm a much more of a fiction reader on my day-to-day, but I am subscribed to a few different newsletters. A lot of LinkedIn creators and content creators vastly and broadly have their own newsletters and things like that, so I specifically subscribe to a few, but I will name a few. I subscribe to Jade I. Powell's newsletter, and she kind of talks about how to monetize being a creator, not necessarily monetize, but how to make it a business rather than just doing it for fun, which I think has been really helpful in my content journey, because you realize, there are things that people are doing to get other opportunities that you probably also should be doing too if you'd like those opportunities. So that's nice. I also kind of on the flip side to that, subscribe to Alexis Barber's newsletter, Too Smart for This, and that kind of goes into lessons and different activities and experiences for what she calls ambitious material girls. So just women who are ambitious and want to succeed in the workforce, and I found that really helpful. She almost writes and talks. She has like a podcast format as well, and she almost talks like a big sister, and so I think for someone who doesn't have any siblings and didn't have that kind of guidance growing up, it's really nice to hear those lessons and to get that advice, which I have really enjoyed. But those are two that come to mind automatically, but I'm sure there's more. Whoever your favorite creator is, they likely have a newsletter, and I would say subscribe to them and see what they have to say, and kind of go through a few, try out Substack. That's really where I like to do a bit of my reading. I also say, like, making sure to stay up to date at least a little bit with like industry news, whatever industry that is, whether that's finance, whether that's, you're in marketing, you're in advertising, whatever that is. I would say looking into something that can give you information on what is happening in the industry so you're staying up to date. I think that will also really help with interview processes, and you can being able to speak to, oh, I know this is happening in the industry right now, how is your company kind of going towards that? Similarly with like AI, like new things are coming up every single day, so making sure to just kind of stay up to date. I'm not saying read an entire 8 million books on it. I'm saying like maybe a quick little skim in the morning that can just, give you a bit more knowledge.
And as we come to the end of today's session, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think I've answered anything, but I do want to say, like, if anybody, watches this and it's like, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do, I would love to talk to you and would love to like give you a few personal tips and pointers. I really feel that like it is my mission to help people coming up and help the next generation and to really give them the advice that I wish I had. So always open My DMs are always open, my emails in my bio, anything like that. I would love to help anyone that I can.
Thank you so much, Catori. I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.